Former Oklahoma Congressman Jim Bridenstine took over as NASA administrator back in April of 2018.
This morning, he is here with us right now to talk about some of the big projects NASA is working on in the next few years. So, good morning, Administrator Bridenstine.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Welcome back to Tulsa. Do you get back to town very often?
Not very often. My wife and kids are still here, but I get back maybe once a month. Not as often as I'd like, but this job is very different than being in Congress. In Congress, you're expected to be home a lot. As the NASA administrator, my job is in D.C., but it's also traveling the country and, in fact, traveling the world. We have 15 partnerships with international partners on the International Space Station, so I do a lot of traveling around the world as well. So we thought it would be better, instead of moving my family to D.C. and then me being gone all the time, probably better for them to stay here in Tulsa.
As we talk about the Artemis program, you tweeted about it just yesterday. Tell folks, if they don't know, what the Artemis program is and how you felt like the public reaction to it has been so far.
It's been amazing. So we're going to the moon, and this is in the President's Space Policy Directive 1, his very first space policy directive. He said we're going to go to the moon, we're going to go sustainably. In other words, this time when we go to the moon, we're going to stay. We're going to go with commercial partners, we're going to go with international partners, we're going to utilize the resources of the moon to learn how to live and work on another world using the resources of another world. And we're going to take that knowledge and we're going to go to Mars. What's interesting now that's very different than the 1960s, and we are not repeating Apollo, but today we have this very diverse, highly qualified astronaut corps that includes women. So we decided to name the program after the twin sister of Apollo. Her name is Artemis. She is the goddess of the moon. And this time when we go to the moon, we go with all of America.
What are we talking about time-wise, 2024?
That's right. We're looking at 2024. Now, a lot of things have to go right to achieve that outcome, but I'll tell you this. I have a very impatient boss. He wants to know why we're not on the moon already. But we're doing everything we can to go as fast as possible for a sustainable return to the moon. Again, we're not repeating Apollo. Apollo was about flags and footprints. It was a technology demonstration in the height of the Cold War. What we're doing now is sustainable development. We want to go to the moon to stay, and then we want to go to Mars.
And would you then say, it's safe to say it would go from the moon to Mars and you wouldn't launch from Earth to the Mars, but you would use maybe a base on the moon to go to Mars? Would that be a possibility?
So what we're looking at is building a base around the moon. We call it Gateway. Think of a space station in orbit around the moon. And with that space station in orbit, we can control multiple missions on the surface of the moon, but that particular space station is evolvable. It can grow, and eventually a part of it can separate off and fly to Mars. The goal here is to build an architecture at the moon that is as much as possible replicable at Mars, and that's what we're doing.
This has to be a dream come true for you.
It's incredible.
As a kid from Oklahoma,
yes,
and now leading this agency.
NASA has had tough times. I'm not going to lie to you. There was a day when we retired the space shuttles. We canceled the Constellation program, which was the replacement to the space shuttle. And the president came in and he said, we want NASA to lead the world in space exploration. This is part of his Make America Great agenda. And so what we're doing is we are increasing NASA's budget. Congress has been increasing NASA's budget in a bipartisan way. This has not happened for decades. So we're very excited. I'm thrilled to be where I am, and we're moving forward rapidly.
Do you believe, as the administrator of NASA, that this is also a national security interest issue as well, getting back into space and getting on the moon and Mars?
Without question. When we retired the space shuttles, when we canceled the Constellation program, a lot of our international partners decided to partner with China. And that, of course, is not in the interest of the United States, because then all of those capabilities and technologies are used by China, and instead all of that money is not invested with the United States and our partners. So we're bringing back our partners, and we're going forward to the moon. And yes, there's a lot of technology development that does spill over, but also NASA is a tool of diplomacy. It's a tool of information power. When we landed on the moon, every person on the planet saw it. And of course, we celebrated the 50th anniversary of that event, and every person on the planet saw it again. That changes the perception of young people all around the world towards the United States of America. It's a positive thing, and people love NASA. It's the best brand America has.
We are out of time, but we have to squeeze this in really quick. One of our coworkers during Halloween walked in. We couldn't figure out who he was or what he was, and this is what he looked like. Take a look at this picture. And Administrator Bridenstine, you actually tweeted it because you saw it as well.
It's awesome.
This is
Bridenstine's Monster is the name of it, a play off of Mary Shelley.
So
of
we're
course.
gonna take these costumes at NASA and we're gonna put them in all the gift stores at NASA. So if you have a child that wants to dress up as Bridenstine next year, you can do that. We'll make it available, but you got to go to a NASA center, go to a NASA gift store. We're probably going to charge, I would guess, maybe $400 per copy. It's got to be one of the most valuable things that NASA could offer.
Administrator, we appreciate your time. Thank you for all you do and representing the state of Oklahoma, and we wish you all the best as you continue on.
Thank you. My pleasure.